Hi, I'm Zoe Spillane. You're listening to Spin 1038. Next up, we have a short documentary about the normalisation of cannabis in the Irish society. When I was about 16 years old, fellow friends of mine started to smoke the drug known as cannabis. I'm 19 now, and in the last 3 years especially, the opportunity to buy, sell and use drugs has popped up on too many occasions. How is it something criminally illegal can be so socially accepted and so easy to obtain even in the places you wouldn't expect it to be? Let's take a look into drugs from both consumer and supplier point of view in these places to develop an understanding of local drug users and their dealers from their own personal experiences to find out more about how they think, how they behave and how they feel. The normalisation of cannabis is becoming more widespread throughout the country, especially with government talks over decriminalisation.
I get you anything you want. Literally anything you want, I can get it for you.
Let's turn on, or let's blast a joint.
Commissioner, don't you think that you're magnifying this issue?
A marijuana cigarette was found on the floor of one of your classrooms, and another was found in the girls' gym.
I was about 14 when I first took drugs.
I was 19.
I was about 17.
I would have been about 16.
About 15 or 16.
About 14 or 15.
13.
12.
I did. I knew what marijuana was. I knew kind of roughly that it was sort of like getting drunk, and I'd be, like by that stage I was 17. So as you can imagine, I'd been fairly drunk a few times. And yeah, like the plan was to get some hash at the time. That's what was going. And basically get high, see what it was like, see if we enjoyed it. If it was great, we would do it again probably. If it was terrible, we probably wouldn't do it. But we just thought we'd try it. So yeah, definitely knew exactly what we were doing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like we'd been drinking before too, you know, we would have had like a couple of cans, so I don't think it was something that I really evaluated too much, you know. I think it was something that I had always assumed I was going to try, and you know, when the ingredients were there, I mean, I'd always been told I had a pretty good, like, fluid, open relationship with my parents about things like that, and it was always, you know, safe environment, people you trust, and if you feel, you know, comfortable that you can talk to us about it. And you know, I remember my dad always saying, like, you'll know when you're doing something wrong, you know, you'll know that that's a boundary you're crossing, and didn't feel like it was, and you know, it was just a little bit of hash with a lot of friends.
I didn't really know what I was doing. I just kind of knew I was gonna be out of it somehow. Like I thought maybe it'd be like being drunk, or it might be even be like what you see on TV, like the world turns into a cartoon. And like you see pink elephants flying around. I had like high hopes, expectations of what was gonna happen, but anyway, not knowing what the prices were, we went around looking for some. So we were like, "Here, man, I have €40. Where can we get a 40 spot of hash?" He brought us up to this guy, and I'm guessing he took a bit off it for getting it for us, but we went back to this like bush, started rolling, and next of all I wake up and everyone's gone. And I didn't touch anything for another like 2 years after that.
I just kind of liked it. I just really I felt like it was a cool feeling. It's hard to explain what it's like to be stoned, but it's like music sounded better. Kind of films were funnier, TV shows were funnier. Your friends, the laughter, like the banter that you'd have with your friends was just funnier. Like kind of like being with a girl was more enjoyable. I won't go into any details there, but definitely like if the two of you have a bit of, like smoking a joint or something like that, being with a girl is a lot more enjoyable. It's hard to explain why. It's just there's something like one of my greatest memories about when I was getting stoned would be to smoke a joint, put on something like really relaxing and chill, like Deadmau5, the song Strobe by Deadmau5, and just lying back and just listening to it and taking it all in and listening to the tune and the chords and the melodies and stuff, and like just vibing to it. Like there's just yeah. So like when I first realized that was the effect, that was the positives of it, that's why I decided to keep doing it.
I'd say when I was like 16 or 17, I used to do, let's say, favors for certain drug dealers.
I sold weed for like 3 years, and ecstasy and weed would have been the main ones, and then cocaine a little bit. I'm currently not selling drugs, but it's a very odd time I do sell cocaine, and kind of sell weed, but not really.
it's hard finding a job now, and like I already have so many friends that smoke weed, and everyone, like I know so many people that do it. Like I just thought it'd be easy for me, and when I started I was right. I mean, I only started so I could buy a car, but after you figure out that you're making close to $1,000 a week, I mean, it's hard to stop.
Back then, every day you'd be getting a phone call for a bag of weed, or when you went out on a Friday or the Thursday beforehand, you'd be getting phone calls for the pills for actually. But and nowadays, probably maybe one every 3 days, 4 days, I get a phone call or something.
It's exactly like the pub scene. I mean, it's so busy coming up to Christmas, and then the week after Christmas is alright, New Year's is alright, but then everyone's broke and they probably have loans to pay off, so you notice people don't call you as much. But I've yet to see all the seasons.
I would say summer, because people have free time. They want to be chilling out in the sun, having a joint. More people are drinking, some more people are taking drugs. And maybe winter as well, though, because people are a little bit more down in winter, aren't they? Because it's darker all the time and they want to pick you up.
No. Well, I mean, though, I guess that's like a personal question, and it depends on the person. I mean, if you have an addictive personality, you know, yeah, absolutely. And like for sure, you can form a dependency on it. Again, I got some pretty solid advice, you know, when I was much younger. I remember my dad saying to me, he was like, you know, nobody likes a stoner. You know, if you're smoking weed every day, you don't have anything interesting to say. And he was like, as is the case with any walk of life, you know, you have to appreciate being low to be high. You know, you have to know what it is to be sober and sober consistently to, you know, appreciate what it is to be stoned. So, you know, it's about finding that balance, you know. I think it's important. You don't ever want to be defined by something like that. You know, it's a recreational hobby. It's a thing that you enjoy. I think it's dangerous to make it intrinsic with your personality, for sure. You know, and that's forming a dependency, and that in itself is an addiction. So yeah, I guess it depends on the situation and the person. Do I personally find it addictive? No. But do I make a conscious effort to curb my habit and make sure that it doesn't become too much a part of my everyday? Absolutely, 100%. You've got to be clever. You've got to be careful. But I mean, you shouldn't drink 20 cups of coffee every day all day either. So I mean, not to make too much of a comparison between the two, but you know what I mean.
I wouldn't say it has a physical addiction quality like heroin or cocaine addicts. You don't get like the tremors when you don't have a joint. Your head might be a bit wrecked, but like you don't have a physical attachment to the drug. But I would say there's a mental addiction quality, definitely. Like that idea that, I can't sleep without a joint, or I don't want to do this, I want to have a joint, or, you know what I mean? Like, but it's not like your body is freaking out. You want it, not your body.
Yeah, definitely. I think people just kind of get used to it. Makes you happier. Why not want to feel happy all the time?
I had a realization in like 2012 that selling weed was really bad. Yeah, it was putting me in a really bad place in my head. The constant bills, not having a job, and like owing out like hundreds of euro and not having any money, like, and just constantly like being paranoid in a way. I wouldn't say I'm a paranoid person, but the act was paranoid, you know.
I find it mad that drink is legal and the plant that grows there isn't. I mean, everyone says that weed is a gateway drug, but how many people have you ever seen smoke a joint say, oh, let's go get a bag of coke now? It doesn't happen. That only ever happens when you're in a pub and you're drunk.
There's one thing that bothers me a little bit. You know, you can't ignore the industry that it comes from, you know, and you kind of always have that slight little bit of awareness. I mean, there's a huge drug trade, there's cartels, there's a lot of death, there's a lot of crime, there's a lot of bad things that happen, not directly associated by, you know, you might say a dealer, I say, you know, my friend so and so who helps me out, or whatever way you want to call it. I'm not talking at that level, I'm talking at a higher level. It means you're associated with something criminal. And again, it's not that I think it's wrong because it's illegal, but I think it's wrong because the fact that it's illegal means that there's this whole kind of ugly underbelly drug trade that is definitely cruel and grotesque and horrible. And I mean, the same as I don't want a necklace of blood diamonds. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be part of that But I mean, that's why there has to be this kind of conversation. We have to move forward, and hopefully eventually you can buy it, you know, in a store and pay taxes and not be associated with that kind of criminal underbelly.
I was holding what we had for, I can't remember the particular reason. I don't think I either I had bought it, like I think it was like the first or second time that I had actually bought and paid for it, or I was just holding it for someone. But like we were like 100 feet from my house, like we were just chilling outside on the road. The guards, like, and it was kind of late at night, and the guards stopped. The guards pull up into the estate, they pull over, they stopped, and they kind of get out of the car, and I've got the stuff in my pocket, and I didn't know what else to do other than to take it out of my pocket, drop it on the grass. Like, obviously it's dark, so hopefully they like, I was hoping that they wouldn't cop it. Drop it on the grass and then just kind of stand on it. That was my game plan, and that's the closest thing that I've ever had to getting caught with weed or any kind of drugs. Was the guard car pulled over. We were standing on like a grassy patch in the estate, and as they get out of the car, I just kind of took it out of my pocket, dropped it behind me, and just stood down on it. And thankfully, they didn't. I can't remember if they actually searched us or not. I don't know if they actually searched us, but if they did, they didn't do like a full search, like checking our pockets and stuff like that. But they just kind of like wandered around and asked us questions and stuff like that, what we were doing and why we were out this late and stuff. But yeah, that was definitely the closest. So I've been nearly caught, if you can describe that as being nearly caught.
I've heard of them. I've heard of people saying it, like the guards pulling them over, because I mean the drug dealers are well known, and the fact that some of them haven't been put away is just beyond me, because like I know them and I know what the guards know about them, and they know so much, they know everything, but yet they don't do anything to catch them. There's a few people that are really like, they're doing it years, they're out there doing it, they don't care who knows, they know the guards know, and their gaffs never get raided. What's that about, like?
The guards pulled up, but we threw the bag of coke in the bush, and then they just asked the lads a few questions. They didn't ask me anything because I was a girl and I looked innocent, but yeah, and then they didn't find anything, drove off.
My family in particular are kind of relaxed about that kind of stuff. It's kind of, as I mentioned earlier on in another answer, it's a little bit in the family, like my uncle and stuff like that, and like some various members of my family, brother-in-law and stuff like that. Like they smoke the odd joint here and there, like so. Yeah, they weren't thrilled. Again, nobody, you never, even if it's something as harmless as weed or whatever, like you never want your kid, if possible, to be getting into any kind of drugs. Whether that's alcohol, cigarettes, pills, medicinals, like literal medicinals. Like you don't want your kids to be relying on kind of headache tablets and stuff like that. Like if they're particularly ill, because like habits and dependencies and stuff like that can grow on that. Or even weed. Like as I said, you don't want your kids to be kind of getting into that kind of stuff. If at all they can help it, no matter how harmless it may be, no matter how kind of relaxing. Like everybody, I think, wants their kids to be good, sober, forward, not needing any of this stuff. I think, like but that could just be me personally. But yeah, like so while they weren't thrilled, they weren't exactly like, they weren't pissed off, they weren't upset, they weren't kind of overly annoyed about it. Like it would just be a thing of like, I'd come home and my ma would look at me and would be like, your eyes were red, you have to have been smoking that, weren't you? And I'd be like, no. And then I'd go rummage the fridge for something to eat. Like so I wasn't the best at covering it, but yeah.
My dad, yeah. I don't think he's that disappointed. It's not like I'm selling a drug that can kill anyone. Nobody literally has ever died from weed. I feel more like a butcher in the neighborhood or something like that than a dealer, to be honest. I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong. The people I meet up with aren't broke on the scratch and desperate. I mean, they all have jobs and they're living good lives, and they come and get a bag off me to take the edge off at night or the weekend. The ones that don't annoy me, I mean, I'd consider friends. Like I'd stop, I'd have a chat with them. That's what I think of drug dealers. They do it and they think, oh, I have power, I have money. They don't keep their customers happy, and that's where they go wrong.
Some of them can be feckin' nuts. Sorry, someone used that word. Yeah, majority of them are okay, but like you get the oddballs. The people that are doing it for so long, they're paranoid out of their brains. They get one idea in their head and that's that. I think some people might need a little break.
It's very easy to get drugs in Lucan. Literally, you could almost like pass someone in the street and ask them if they know somebody, and you'll get it.
I've had people walk up to me on the street and ask me, do you have drugs? Because I'm walking around, I'm stoned out of my head, like, and they know. So Yeah, drugs are extremely accessible in Lucan.
I hope you enjoyed this short documentary. Thank you for listening. I'm Zoe Spillane and you're listening to Spin 1038.